Welcome to the EQ Fit podcast. Our mission is to equip people to prosper in every aspect of their life. Whether you're at home or in the workplace, we explore practical ways of improving success, satisfaction, finding balance, and building enjoyable and beneficial relationships. Thank you for joining us. So we're going to continue our focus on leadership and this new series that talks about really the essence of leadership. Where does it come from? How do you develop those skills? What are the skills? What does leadership truly mean? And how does leadership change? Because we're now in the 21st century and things are moving faster than ever before. Change, technology, things are just increasing in pace. But there are some things that are not increasing. The speed of trust, it still takes time to build trust with people. The speed of thinking, where we can think and process through things. Sure, there's artificial intelligence and there's other things to help us. But with all of this going on and so many people leveraging different technologies and trying to figure out how do we do this, how do we do that, one thing that has not changed is the need for good leadership. And that is between people. Can you learn from artificial intelligence, from other areas? Sure. You can learn from books, from recordings, from podcasts, from which I hope you do, and webinars and all of that. But real leadership starts on the inside and then is developed going out. Let me explain what I mean by that. Leadership is often perceived as the ability to influence and guide others toward a shared goal. That's a fair statement. Now, while this is true, effective leadership is deeply rooted in an individual's internal growth and development. We have to learn to lead ourselves well first before we can lead other people well. The best leaders love to learn. They love to grow. The journey to becoming a better leader begins with a commitment to self-improvement and the cultivation of habits that enhance your decision-making, your actions, and your behavior. This inside-out approach to leadership not only strengthens the leader, but also positively impacts those that they lead. There is a true cascade effect that happens when a leader brings the best out of themselves. And that's my job. That's what I do for a living, is help leaders bring the best out of themselves. Well, as always, I like to share a story with you. And this is kind of a story of a lot of people, but also focusing down onto one leader. I've had the opportunity over the years to work with hundreds of different leaders. One of the greatest joys that I have is watching a leader realize their full potential, that really grow into their full potential. To watch the best version of themselves and their leadership emerge through their commitment and through their hard work. It's not just some magic formula. It's not just me helping people and guiding people and coaching people. If you want to grow your leadership, that is going to come from inside of you. I've recently had the opportunity to work with leaders of all ages. It's been a fascinating last few years. All ages, all experience levels. There's a common thread, though, that runs through all of these people that I believe are true leaders. Now, I'll deal with that in another episode. What do I mean by a true leader? The simple definition is somebody who is really committed to developing those internal skills that can then be expressed externally. They have this in common: a desire to learn, a desire to grow, and they want to enhance their impact that makes things better for everybody. So there's a real motive behind why they're improving, because they want to make things better, and not just for themselves. I've recently had the opportunity to work with a leader who's been struggling with their team. The combination of personal challenges, setbacks in the team effort, and the increasing pace of change and all of the uncertainty that's going on have really taken a toll on this leader. Now, we began our work together, as I always do, with a curated package of assessments. In the feedback session, as we were reviewing the assessments, it became very clear that several counterproductive habits had developed in this leader, and those were holding this leader back. This was leading to a heightened emotional intensity in the leader and an increase in how much of their energy and focus was being drained. Now, these are all measures that I can show you in an assessment. I admit, when I do these feedback sessions, I always enjoy the look on people's faces when they look at me and say, "How can you possibly know that about me? It's like you're reading my mind." Well, the reality is, the assessments gave me the information. An assessment is basically you telling yourself about you. And I've read thousands and thousands of assessments over the years, understanding how they correlate with each other. And I'm always going to be a proponent of multiple assessments. I do not agree with anyone that uses one assessment only to make hiring decisions or to make internal development decisions or promotions or any significant decisions about people. I think that is a lopsided way to look at things. Anyway, that's personal opinion, but I think it plays out when you think of how much information and insight you gain by using multiple assessments. So back to that, I get a kick out of watching people look at me and say that, how can you possibly know that about me? But really, they told me through the assessment. Here's what I enjoy even more, though. It's when they realize there's a way to use this insight and this information to create a pathway of growth and development for themselves that removes the roadblocks and accelerates their success and their satisfaction. That is kind of the pinnacle of when things happen and go the right way. And it really mostly depends on the commitment and dedication of the individual wanting to grow their leadership skills. I can bring all kinds of tools and processes and information and learning and knowledge and coaching and all of that, but it really is up to the individual if they're going to grow and commit to this journey. So when this leader I was talking to understood all of that, you could see the transformation begin. What used to seem like huge mountains to climb became small hills. Success does breed success. As this leader continued to grow and develop their skills to lead themselves well, it cascaded down into the team. They became a better leader. They were more impactful. They were more able to be resilient and agile, and frankly, just had more energy and more focus. This is key. All of this made it easier for them to connect with people and to build trust, which enhanced their influence. Growing leadership from the inside out is transformational. It's a skill development that lasts a lifetime. With continued practice and learning, you can continue to grow. There's no limit to the growth you can have in leadership skills. And there are people out there, and I'm sure you've met them, where they are absolutely confident that they have everything that they need to be a good leader. And that's all they need. They don't need anything else. They don't want to hear anything else. That's not what I believe is a true leader, because they've cut out the love of learning. And I think that has to be a part of being a true leader. Now, today, this leader is more confident, they're more impactful, they're more influential, they're more resilient. Everyone at the organization wants to be on this leader's team. It's kind of funny to watch that. It's like there's a waiting line of people who want to be on this leader's team. It would not surprise me at all to see this leader running the entire organization someday, because of that dedication to developing themselves so that they can help others. It's a wonderful thing to observe. And that is the power of an inside-out growth and development process. So let's dive a little deeper into this inside-out approach to leadership development. At the heart of effective leadership is the recognition that true influence begins within. Think about that just a minute. Real influence starts with yourself. You have to be able to influence yourself that you can do and will do what you need to do to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. From that, you can develop more confidence in yourself. Notice that all of this is happening within yourself, and the skills that you'll develop are within yourself. Once those are refined and strengthened, then you can apply them externally. But until you have them internally, you're not going to be able to effectively apply them externally. Why is that? You probably have met people who basically tell you to do things a certain way, but they don't do things that way. And there's a whole school of thought around fake it till you make it, and just use the right process and everything will work out. And no, this is more organic. If you really want to be a good leader, somebody who has influence and who can get things done through other people, you're going to have to exhibit the skills, the character, the competency, the capacity to do it yourself. That then, it's contagious. Other people see that and they want to be a part of that. Developing leadership from the inside out means that the growth that a leader experiences internally through their mindset, their values, their emotional intelligence, and the skills that they develop then manifests outwardly in their behavior, in their decision making, and in their interactions with other people. This approach focuses on creating lasting change, and that's important, lasting change, not just change for this month, change back next month. No, I'm talking about transformation here. This approach focuses on transformation by cultivating the right habits and practices that enhance one's ability to lead. Leadership skills are perishable skills. What does that mean? It means if you don't practice them and use them, you will lose them, or they will at least diminish. That's a perishable skill. There's a lot of perishable skills in life. I still haven't figured out the whole golf thing, but I'm trying. I keep trying. And I guess I don't practice enough to have a consistency that I want to have. because I sure have a vision in my mind of what that should be. But isn't that just like a lot of the leaders that we've seen in our lifetimes, who have a vision of the leader they want to be and who try to express that to people, but the foundation to become that leader is not in them. But it could be if they would take this inside-out approach. Leadership isn't just about managing others. It's about leading yourself first. This self-leadership is foundational to developing the core competencies that define a great leader. By focusing on developing self-awareness, self-regulation, intrinsic motivation, empathy, and social skills, leaders can transform from the inside out. Now, if you listen to any of my other episodes, you'll know that those 5 competencies are the 5 primary categories of emotional intelligence. Why am I so focused on that? Number 1, because it is the one skill set that is most predictive of success, period. It's been proven in study after study. Look at Forbes, look at Harvard Business Review, look at dozens of researchers and dozens of studies and case studies that I've done. I have seen in my own work where embedding and infusing these 5 primary competencies of emotional intelligence into an organization increased their sales by 28% in 1 year and doubled their net profit. That's real outcomes. That's real return on investment. So this is why I feel so strongly about this. So when we do those things, when we build those, leaders transform from the inside out, and that creates a ripple effect that influences their teams, their organization, and their communities. So let's start to break those down. And I always like to provide in these episodes a way to work on something. So let me break those 5 down for you, and specifically in developing this inside-out approach, and how would we do that in these 5 different areas, starting with self-awareness. Self-awareness is the ability to recognize and understand your own emotions, your strengths, your weaknesses, your values, your patterns, your habits, and the impact that these have on other people. So self-awareness is also about how you're showing up for other people. So why should we develop this? What's the value or benefit of it? A self-aware leader is grounded and aware of how their internal state affects their decisions and their relationships. This awareness allows leaders to make more informed choices, communicate more effectively, and build stronger relationships. So how do we develop self-awareness? Regular reflection through journaling is a great way to do it. And I know there's a lot of people out there, and I was one of those who said, oh no, I'm never going to journal. I got to be honest with you, it's pretty effective. And as much as I was opposed to it, it really does help me. Now, I don't do it every day, but I do it. And when I do it for a specific purpose. And the insights and the reflections I have in those times have led me to better outcomes down the road. So it's good to capture those things. Another thing you can do to develop self-awareness is seek feedback from trusted colleagues or mentors, people you trust that will give you real feedback, constructive feedback. And then another way is to engage in mindfulness practices. And again, for those of you that are not familiar with mindfulness, I'm not talking some new age approach to something that's weird and science fiction. This is just taking the time to be mindful of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, how it's impacting you. If you want to change something, what would that be? Most people don't take the time to do that. And honestly, I think that creates a lot of stress and pressure that doesn't need to be there. And I think that people get stuck in habits and get stuck, say, in patterns that could be so much better, but they don't take the time to really be mindful and think it through. So the second one is self-regulation. Self-regulation is the ability to manage your own emotions, your thoughts, and your behaviors in different situations, especially under stress. Why should we do it? What's the value and benefit of doing that? Leaders who can self-regulate are better equipped to handle challenges with composure and with resilience. They can think clearly under pressure. They can maintain a positive attitude. And optimism is really important, by the way. If you want to lead a team well, optimism needs to be something that is a skill that you've developed. And it is a choice. That's for another episode. And I have done several on optimism. But you can also make decisions that are not clouded by impulsive reactions. And so many times we see that where people are triggered with a certain set of emotions and they make decisions and take actions in an impulsive fashion. That is not self-regulation. That is reacting rather than responding. How can we develop self-regulation? Here's a few thoughts. Practice just taking a breath, stepping away for a second, or any other kind of relaxation technique to stay calm when it's stressful. The second way is develop a routine of pausing before you respond. Now, a lot of people will say react there. React is without thought. That's the way I'm defining react. You're just reacting. There's not a lot of thought to it. There's not a lot of intention. Responding is much better, especially when it's some kind of an emotionally charged situation. And then set personal goals for yourself, for your behavior, so that you can manage your behavior well. You can track yourself over time. Have a set of standards or goals that you set. Number 3 is intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is the drive to pursue goals and tasks for the inherent satisfaction and fulfillment that they bring by achieving them and completing them. You're not doing it for money. You're not doing it for an external motivating force. You're doing it for the internal satisfaction and feeling of accomplishment. That is critical when we think about intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic or external motivation. Leaders who are intrinsically motivated are more passionate, they're more persistent, and they can engage in their work more consistently. They inspire others through their commitment and their dedication, and that fosters a culture of excellence and purpose within their team. How do we develop this? Align personal values with professional goals. Personal values with professional goals to ensure meaningful work. The second way is set challenging but achievable goals that provide a sense of accomplishment. And then don't miss out on celebrating the small wins. And I've mentioned this before. I'm terrible at this. I focus on the big wins. And then I celebrate those, but they're so few and far between sometimes. I should focus more on celebrating the small wins. That helps build your intrinsic motivation. And then engage in continuous learning and self-improvement and keep that inner drive alive. So the fourth one is empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It's putting yourself in their shoes. What are they feeling? What is their perspective? What are their perceptions about things? This is not about right and wrong. This is about the willingness to be empathetic. Now, it may not change your mind. It may not make you make a different decision as a leader, but what it will do is it will show people how much you care. And that's really important. This is not compromise. It's not giving in. It is, though, making yourself fully present for the other person, to listen to them well, understand where they are, understand their perceptions and their feelings. What is the value and benefit of this? Well, it may be a lot more than you think. Empathy is essential for building trust. That alone. If you don't have trust, I have always said trust is the currency of getting things done. If you don't have trust with somebody, it's really hard to get something done with them or through them. So it's essential for building trust within the team. Leaders who are empathetic can be better at understanding the needs, the concerns, and the motivations of their team members. And that leads to stronger relationships, and it leads to a more cohesive work environment. So how do we develop empathy? Practice active listening, focusing entirely on the speaker without interrupting, and don't look at your phone. Don't look off into the distance. Pay attention. Be fully present with that individual. Here's something else you can do. Engage in conversations with people from different backgrounds to broaden your perspective, to understand people better. You're literally practicing empathy by doing that. And again, these are perishable skills. The more we practice them, the more habits we develop around them, the better off we're going to be as leaders. And then the third thing we can do is reflect on personal experiences to connect with the emotions of others. So understand yourself better, your own emotions better, leverage that self-awareness to understand other people better. And the fifth one that we'll talk about is social skills. Social skills are the abilities used to interact and communicate effectively with other people, including the ability to manage relationships, to build networks, and to work collaboratively. Again, why should we do it? What's the benefit of it? Strong social skills are critical for effective leadership. Leaders with well-developed social skills can influence, they can negotiate, they can resolve conflict more effectively, and they can create a positive and a productive work environment. How do we develop that skill, those social skills? Focus on building and maintaining relationships through regular communication. It's just regular communication. Practice conflict resolution techniques. Learn more about conflict resolution. By the way, I think a lot of people see conflict as a negative or a bad thing. It's just unresolved stuff. That conflict is about resolving what is unresolved. If we can resolve what is unresolved, then we're going to be really good at conflict resolution. And we're going to remove a lot of roadblocks in the workplace. And we can engage in team building activities to strengthen our group dynamics. That makes a lot of sense. The better we interact with each other, the better you as a leader interact with your team members, the better the dynamic's going to be. Now, all of this comes down to creating lasting leadership habits, starting from the inside, coming out. Developing these competencies requires consistent effort, and it needs the cultivation of these habits. Habits don't happen by just saying, oh, I want to do that from now on. No, it's practice. We need to be consistent in our effort and the cultivation of those habits that reinforce the behaviors that we want. Some practices to consider might include, say, daily reflection. Spend time each day reflecting on your actions, decisions, and your interactions. And do it from a positive perspective. Consider what went well and then consider what could be improved. But don't ruminate in that. Don't just stew in it and keep an emotional environment that isn't positive or productive. We literally choose the emotional environment that we live in. And you can choose to stay in a negative and non-productive emotional environment by just experiencing those emotions over and over, or you can take a more proactive and positive approach and think through what went well, what can be improved, how can we make things better in the future. The next thing you can do to create these habits, continuous learning. Leaders are learners, and they have a love of learning. Commit to ongoing education and self-improvement, reading, attending workshops, coaching, engaging in peer discussions, taking online courses. There's many, many different ways. Listening to these podcast episodes, reading blog articles. There's so many ways to learn. Another way that you can develop these habits is through mentorship and feedback. Seek out feedback from mentors, from peers, and even from those people you lead. Use this feedback to guide your growth and refine your leadership approach. There is no one right leadership model. And I probably should have said that at the very first of this episode. So if you waited this long, you got this little golden nugget at the end. There is no one right leadership model. Why? Because every person is different, and everyone on your team is different. So take the gifts and the talents that you have, grow the skills that we've talked about, and become your unique version of your best leadership self. That's what this is all about. And by focusing on this internal development, you can create a solid foundation that will support your actions and your behaviors. This inside-out approach not only makes you more effective, but also more authentic. And that's important. People can see through fake really quickly. It makes you more authentic, and you know what that does? It helps to inspire others because you are genuine and authentic, and you are developing those skills within yourself, and others are drawn to that. Leadership from the inside out is about building a solid internal foundation that shapes external actions. And by developing critical competencies that we've talked about, self-awareness, self-regulation, intrinsic motivation, empathy, and social skills, you can transform yourself and in turn positively influence the people that you lead, wherever they are, at work, at home, at church, in an association or a group, wherever you are. You can become the leader that everybody else wants to be. This holistic approach to leadership development fosters habits that lead to more effective, resilient, and inspiring leadership. And that creates a lasting impact on the people around you. And isn't that what we want as leaders? To make things better for everybody. Thank you for joining us for this episode. If you have any questions about this week's episode, or maybe a suggestion for future episodes you'd like us to explore, please contact us through our website at eqfit.org. For more information and inspiration, connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube at EQFit.